And here we are, Mr. Tim Wilde himself. How you doing, my friend? How's the knee holding up?
Hey Dan, I'm good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah,
Uh,
doing. Come.
yeah, so knees in progress, shall we say? But it's doing all right. I'm making good progress with it. I'm 6 weeks post-op now. Um, so yeah, things are good.
So, what was the actual surgery you had then? What was the just wear and tear sort of thing? Was it actual injury in training? What happened?
Well, it was an injury in training actually, sparring. To me on a low kind of double leg takedown. But didn't catch the back leg. Kind of landed heavily on the front leg. I had my shin pads on. It was a bit of a freak accident thing, really. And he, because I had my shin pads on, and it was like last round, we were both very sweaty. Kind of like stuck to my leg. So naturally, I would, turn away from him to peel him off the single leg, you know, and but he was planted to me. So instead, as he's drove forward, he's hyperextended my knee in, and then twisted it in as well. So it's kind of halfway as I was turning. It's, if you imagine, it's hyperextended and
Mm.
then twisted inwards. So I actually and at the I screamed. Yeah, it was a bad one. I screamed, and at the time, I thought MCL because of where it was, on the inside of my right knee. But I thought it's only a strain, not too bad, because within 10 minutes of icing it and stuff, I could get up and walk around. It hadn't blown up too much. But yeah, kind of as it progressed and got worse, I realised it was worse. Got it checked out, and turns out I completely torn my MCL and my ACL. Um, which was, yeah, that's the face I pulled when the doctor said it to me, because I couldn't believe it. I could still walk. I still had range of motion. I didn't have a big pop. It was painful, but yeah. And as for wear and tear, you know what? I've been really lucky in my career. I've never had any problems with my knees whatsoever. But when I do, like, I don't do things by arse,
I was
obviously.
gonna
So
say, don't mess about. I mean, there's a lot in that, man. Oh god, that makes me sick. Oh, and the injuries are one of them ones. So, regards to the whole process, so from the word go, obviously you hit a big sort of snap bang wallop, whatever it is, and then you're sort of panicking. Okay, now what? Because again, it's not just a case of this is a hobby, this is your career. Like, where was your head up when it all happened? Was it a case of, okay, I'll sleep this off, it'll be all right? Is it okay? This is the end of everything. What was going through your head when it sort of happened?
uh, uh, all emotions. I mean, anger, frustration, disappointment, upset, kind of panic and fear, because I was four. I think it was either 4 or 5 weeks out from fighting, so I was due. It was never announced because they were all delayed, but I was due to fight Chris Bungard in Milan, and on the Bellator series. With all the other guys like Aiden and Fabian, I was with them out there fighting and stuff. What I was meant to be. And camp had gone brilliant, mate. I know you follow me on social. I've been on it all through COVID. Like, I've been on it, working hard with the new team, and yeah. So the initial thing was just like, can I swear?
Oh,
Can I?
you,
Can I?
you can
The
swear
initial
whatever you
thing
fucking
was
want to.
fuck. Like, I was like just shocked, pissed off, because it was such a freak accident thing. He was having great rounds. I'd done 2 rounds with Akon. We were moving around, both feeling sharp. And I won't embarrass the lad, but the lad I jumped in with and did this last round, I mean, he was devastated. Like, he's gutted, but it's just a freak accident, man. So yeah, it's a combination of fear, worry. Fuck, am I going to be able to fight? And I'm thinking, I'll still fight. I'll do whatever I can. Blah blah blah. And then the reality slowly hit as the week progressed, and I saw more specialists, had a scan, see my physio, etc. I realised how bad it was, and then it's just you go for, it's like I've lost something, and I knew I was going to be competing at the highest level for my third fight in my contract, good money. I'm guaranteed win in my eyes. I was going to smoke the kid, and like, yeah, it was just, I went through accepting that and getting over that, and then it was the anxiety or kind of apprehension of having major surgery for the first time in my life and stuff. So, been an emotional roller coaster, really.
I mean, there's a lot in that. And obviously, the person who indirectly injured you, because again, it wasn't a malicious thing. So it's hard to say, oh, they were the culprit, they were the victim. No, it's a very dynamic sport. A lot happens. But again, it's interesting sort of saying you've had like the sort of sod law, had the perfect camp, perfect discipline, everything there, and then something like this happens. But again, it's a sort of an anomaly in itself. But this is kind of it. So regards of jump around topics here. So regards to the Milan card, regards to your training from that, how far out did you know about the event? Because again, there's a lot of Bellator guys on socials being very not very quiet, saying I've got something to announce, but I can't tell you. Like sort of, I've got a secret I can't tell you. That was that for a while. How far out did you know from the event that you were going to fight on it?
I think I had an 8-week camp, but so it could have been about 8 weeks out. We knew there was things said loosely, you know. The situation with COVID didn't help everything. So Bellator, I think, was not in a rush to announce it in case the pandemic progressed and it got locked down. So they were holding off as long as possible. They said to us, you know, that's always the case. You know, you don't announce your fight until the company have, as a rule. But yeah, you know, we put hints out there. Oh God, get ready for this date. You know, like or you know, pizza emojis and stuff like that. Anything to just put little like clues.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think as a whole, people are a little bit cautious at the minute to, you know, announce anything with the uncertainty of what everyday life and what's going to happen. I mean, you know, we're back in lockdown again now and stuff. So, yeah, I think, yeah, I would say it's about 8 weeks. But all the guys, like, you know, we were lucky that we're all elite athletes as such that we could all still train together, like kind of legally. We'd had the green light off the government and stuff. So we was all working hard all summer, you know, and Joy as well. So and Tom Breeze. So we were all just cracking on with it, getting ready for whatever come.
I mean, this is as well, again, with that sort of wealth of experience, sort of deal with these sort of injuries and that kind of stuff. Because again, I'll be very surprised if all those guys hadn't had a similar sort of scenario, not necessarily to the same extent, but again, okay, this sort of weird anomaly happens, you got this camp and midway through this sort of thing happens. Now, regards of your sort of mindset from, okay, the fight is off and I've got to deal with this injury. How do you sort of approach that situation? Like on the word go then, was it quite okay accepting of it all? Were you quite sort of reluctant? Were you in denial? How did you accept that kind of new step in your journey, so to speak?
Well, again, it's a process, you know, and I can't thank Richard Hart enough. He helps me a lot with my mindset and my process. So shout out to him, the English hypnotist. But I had to go through a certain set of emotions, and it's like grieving, you know. You go through the different phases. But initially, when my physio said to me, he said, Tim, I need you to go and get a scan with a knee specialist because I'm not confident that you haven't done your ACL. I broke, you know, I'm not ashamed to admit, I broke down into tears, man. I was crying my eyes out because I've been working all year. I've got this new start with a new team, and yeah. So, but we only have, like, you know, we live our lives. You have, I think Conor agrees that you choose how you feel. So it's up to me about what I do now. I could, you know, sit and wallow and get fat and think, oh, it'll just heal itself, and you know, I'll get there and get back in it next year. But instead, I've kind of just thought, well, injury, like my physio has always said this, injuries are opportunities. And I just looked at me as a fighter and at my game as a whole, and I thought, right, okay, this has happened now. I can't wrestle, I can't strike, I can't do jiu-jitsu for 5 6 months maybe. So what can I do now? So I've just sat there and made a plan and made some sort of structure as to what I'm going to try and achieve in the next 6 months. Well, kind of already starting doing so in the next 5 months. And I just got focused on what I can do rather than what I can't do. And that's what's helped me get through it.
I mean, that in itself is so important because, again, the whole idea of controlling what you can, I mean, you can't obviously read in daily stoic and other sort of stoic practices always really important. So again, it's so important to actually put that into practice because otherwise it's just, you know, fancy words on a poster on your wall. But this is an interesting thing in itself. So regards of your plan now, obviously without, you know, disclosing too many sort of personal plans, what sort of things are they based around? Is it more watching tape? Is it more when you come back? Is it stuff you're doing now? What does your plan currently look like in a sense of where is the action being taken place?
I, I apologise. My signal must be low or something. I lost that question. If you could ask it again, sorry.
Yeah, sure, not a problem, mate. The internet's a bit shit. It's all right. So regards of obviously making plans and everything else, it gets a very it's a very personal thing to you how you're doing it. Is it more stuff you're doing now? Is it stuff you're doing after the fact when you're back in action? Is it watching tape of what you've already done and trying to review things? Like, what is your plan process at the minute?
Okay, yeah. So good question. I looked at myself as a whole, as as a fighter. I talked to my teammates and my coaches, support network, and basically and then also looked at what I can physically do for these 6 months. And we all agreed I can become a better athlete, and that's a very broad spectrum. But that was the goal, and the initial thought was, right, I work on this time to become a better athlete. So I then went away and broke that down, and I am an athlete, and I know I'm an athlete, but I know I can always become a better athlete. So I wanted to think, right, okay, this is a time where I can really work on putting some kind of muscle on and start training heavy. It's also a time where I can really work on my flexibility. My flexibility isn't bad, but it can always be improved. It's allowed me to focus on those things more. Whereas when you're training full time, with no injury and in and out of camp, you're constantly working your wrestling, your striking, your BJJ, and that takes up massive chunks of your kind of training. Whereas now I can't do any of that. So now I can concentrate. Like every day, I'm lifting weights, I'm stretching, I'm started doing a lot more gymnastics, working on mobility. I'm one of the things that I'm quite proud of myself for doing, and I think if I looked back at me maybe 3 years ago, I wouldn't have done this. Is I'm really proud of. I haven't put on any weight whatsoever. I'm still kind of waking up in the morning, doing my HRV. I'm tracking all my calories daily, and making my journal notes. And I'm just being professional and being an athlete, even though I know I won't be returning to the sport for 6 months. And yeah, a lot of people have noticed it. My family, my close friends, and my support team. And yeah, I have to have some sort of focus. I have to be doing something and chasing goals, otherwise I fall to pot. So yeah, so that's what I'm working on now. Until mate, to be honest, I've really seen some this was one of the big disappointing things around not fighting, was I didn't get to show anyone how I've improved. I've seen some massive improvements this year in my MMA skills and abilities, and I was so excited to show people, in Milan, and that fell through due to this. But all it's done is prolong that. Those skills are still going to be there. I still watch footage of my training. I still see the lads train. I'll go and watch them train as soon as I can get about a bit more. And, come 6 months' time when I return to the sport, I've still got all that knowledge and all that gains, and I'm going in as a better athlete. So it's like, it'll be even better next year, like kind of September end of next year when I look to return to back in the cage. It's just going to be even worse for whoever I fight. So
Now, there's a lot in that I think is really interesting, and so important is how you kept consistent with the things that seem almost mundane to quite a lot of people. And they are like the journaling, the tracking, all that kind of stuff, but it's so important. And the fact you managed to keep those kind of habits up, even without the actual motivation of a fight, even without the training as such, I mean, that sort of thing is so remarkable. And when it comes to obviously your development, I want to show off these skills. Like obviously when it comes to the intangibles of, okay, how much better really are you? Because it's very hard to measure. Like, how do you measure your progress and sort of thing? Is it part of your journaling sort of reference points? Is it feedback inspiring? How do you know where you've got better other than the usual sort of, okay, every fighter says I'm better from camp to camp, the sort of, aside from cliches?
Well, the biggest measure for me is the kind of people that I'm surrounded with and how I get on with them and how we daily and competitively. So, my previous gym was a fantastic gym and a great team, but the what it lacked was high level competitors really. And with moving to Renegade, which is just bursting with high level competitors, you have a lot more people to measure yourself against. And I know how I got on when I first went there, and I seen how I was getting on just as I was about to fight until I got injured. And that for me is the best measure, because all those guys that you train with, they're constantly improving as well and stuff. So I really settled in well to the team. And yeah, that, you know, it really is a great team and a great place for high level pros for sure. And again, like reading back to notes, so things I might be like journaling, like you say, like things I might be struggling where, you know, common mistakes I'm making, I'm not making them as much, or I'm not making them at all now. And that's how you measure progression really with skills.
I mean, this is really interesting in itself because, again, the whole concept of journaling, like sort of Seneca kind of approach and everything else, and the Marcus Aurelius of like, it's part of Stoic practice versus just the sort of mantras and the nice little sayings that go on the bathroom walls. It's all very important to actually, you know, put them into practice. Now, when it comes to your note taking, your journaling, how detailed is it? Like from session to session, is it like just a sentence? Is it a whole page? Is it RPE? Is it quite measured, like numbers based? What does your document tend to look like post training?
Generally, I would say it's about half a page. Well, in fact, that's the diary there. You see, it's kind of a day-by-day diary, not quite A4, the next size down, and it's a day-by-day diary. I will fill in a page of that kind of every day. I do actually have two, so I have a spare one for if I'm writing more about how I'm feeling or things that are happening outside of it. So it's, you know, like other stuff that's going on that I might want to write down about. But I definitely, is it? I'm not sure. Is it A3 the size or A5? The next one
A5
down.
should
I
go
definitely
smaller, yeah.
fill one of them a day, you know, and that, yeah, and that's when I'll include on that kind of my resting heart rate, my morning, you know, kind of calories burned in the day, my food that I've ate, and yeah, a good summary of the training. Like Rich has us answer 3 questions, which you probably know around, you know, after each training session, and I try to go into as much detail as I can. It also depends, I guess. Sometimes out of camp, I tend to lean off a little bit, and there may be not as much in camp. The more detail I can put down, the better.
I mean, this is sort of a real point when it comes to like, even like from a general fitness point of view, the sort of the more detailed you can sort of track, the more you can really progress in that kind of sense. Like the whole, obviously you don't have to be 100% numbers based, but again, the more elements you can sort of keep track of and sort of notice the sort of progress. And again, when it comes to Rich, it takes us nice to segment to shout our sponsors. So the English Hypnotist, again, as in Tim and I will sing his praises till the sun goes down about how much he can really do for general mental sort of development. And I say it very literally, mental development in the sense of, okay, the way you can apply your mindset and apply your, I don't know, get rid of that sort of sabotage, get rid of these obstacles in your own way. So it's interesting to have those conversations. Shout out to Rico Clothing, high quality clothes, quite a nice variety, pod 10 for discount. And the People's IT, Mr. Good old Chow, he's a man of the people, and phenomenal websites. They're great websites, great support, fantastic. But yeah, when it comes to tracking progress and developing that kind of stuff, some of it gets quite ambiguous. So it's so important to keep a tab on this sort of thing to make sure we're including all of this. And the thing I'm really interested in, and a huge thing I wanted to get you on for, is sort of talking about life outside of Instagram. So again, from what I see and what everyone else sees, you see your discipline, you see the consistency, you see the data the updates on, like, you know, post-op week by week sort of stuff. But what is like life like off social media in that sense for your recovery and everything else? Are you managing to, are you still motivated in that sense? You still manage to sort of, I don't know, crack on, live? So see, you spend a lot of time with your son and everything else. Is it, how are you finding life with an injury so far? Because again, until it's all back in action, we don't see the other side of it.
Yeah, it's a, you know, people have to remember that Instagram is just an app where you put your best pictures and your best videos on. So, you know, like, don't get me wrong, I am a very positive person. My life is great, you know. So I'm not. It's not like I'm putting that picture on for 5 minutes and then I'm depressed and my life's shit outside of that. It's truly not. I'm very happy, lucky, blessed person to do what I do for a living. I have a beautiful family, etc. But yeah, I mean, again, going back to what I said before, it has been a roller coaster of emotions. There has been times where I've been down, and you have to pick yourself up out of it. And Richard's helped me out of that. My partner's helped me out of that. You know, my family's helped me out of that. But it's difficult, and major injuries. This is my first one, big, and I've been lucky. It's been like 8 to 10 years I've been doing MMA. It's my first one. It really is hard. And one of the biggest things I found was when all the lads were out in Milan fighting, it was such a mixture of feelings, because I was rooting for them. You know, come on, like, I want the lads and the team to win. I'm so happy for them. But then I'm like devastated that I'm not there with them, and I feel shit, and I'm like, I should be with them and that. So yeah, but you know what? The biggest thing that's surprised me, not surprised me, I guess just that I wasn't expecting, was the monotony of the physio rehab of. I don't think people realise what you have to do. So, you know, I've put a couple of bits on about my physio, but I swear to God, I'm spending, 3 hours a day doing physio. Now, I'm very limited to what I can do as well, straightening and bending my leg. I'm standing on one leg and pivoting. You may have seen the video, like stretching it with a band, whatnot. So there's about 12 exercises, and each one is 3 sets of 15 reps. And I'm doing that 3 to 4 times a day, and it's taking nearly 3 hours. Now, alongside that, I have to ice my knee with this machine that I have. Company gave me a brilliant machine. It's called a V-Pulse from Breg, and it's an ice compression machine combined. And I use that for nearly 2.5 hours a day. That's 5.5 hours of my day where I'm stuck to an ice machine, or I'm frigging doing the same boring exercises, bending my leg. And so it's so boring, but it's like, I've got to do that. If I do this now for these first 3 months and smash it and achieve all these goals and do everything I perfectly can, I give myself the best chance returning back to sport, and I make my leg the strongest it can possibly be. I've paid for this private, and I won't lie, it's absolutely rinsed me. I wish I bloody had health insurance, because, if I was to only do this half-hearted and eat pizza and just have a couple of days off and stuff like that, and then I re-injure myself, I couldn't live with knowing that I've skint myself out and not give myself the best chance to get it right. Do you know what I mean? So that's my kind of motivation for it, alongside just wanting to fight again. But yeah, it's very boring, man, and I can't sit still. I can't sit still. So like, I find it hard to sit. My missus is the opposite. She's like, I'd love this, man. I'd just be like watching all the box sets, all the catching up on all the movies, and I'm like, I can't do it, man. I need to be doing stuff. So I find it hard to rest too. So it's challenging, yeah.
I mean, that in itself, there's so much in that. And I like how you're prioritizing and investing in yourself, because again, as much as it is not very cost efficient, and also it is, going to be quite taxing in that sense, you appreciate the sort of what it's going towards. It's bigger than what you're going for right now. Like, the point isn't the monotonous exercise. The point is getting better, and I'm being able to appreciate that. Again, it shows a lot of maturity in that sense. And again, it's interesting that what you said there is the restlessness and lack of being able to sit still. And it's a weird one, because again, we used to like going at 1,000,000 miles an hour, training like X amount of times a day, got responsibilities and everything else. So when you're switching off, how are you switching off? Are you trying to go complete recreation and watch absolute junk on the TV for like a episode or two? Are you trying to read? Are you trying to just go health level and development side of stuff? What is how are you expending that restless energy now, other than 5 hours of ice-based physio?
Yeah. To be honest, I've watched quite a lot of telly. Yeah. So just quickly, sorry to say, because I tore my MCL. You're very vulnerable for the first 6 weeks, and I had an allograft. So the surgery I had, where I had an allograft, so a donated MCL from a dead body put in, and then I also had a new ACL off of my own patella, off my own patella ligament. So the first 6 weeks I've been in a brace. You've probably seen a big, massive black brace, and I can only go kind of that motion. And that's been one of the biggest reasons that I'm so limited now. Normally, with an ACL surgery on its own, you can get to work much earlier on. So I've been purposely held back because of this MCL. So part of I've been able to accept that I've had to rest a lot because I don't want to push this too hard too early on and then potentially F it up in the future. So I have been chilling a lot and I have watched a lot of TV, you know. Embarrassingly to admit, we've actually watched in order, chronologically, the Marvel film series,
What's
like
25?
25 or 26 films. Yeah, all of them, every single one in order. The only one we haven't watched is the Black Widow one, which was never released from the cinema. So, yeah, so that, I mean, that in itself, they're like 2 hours of film. There's 50 hours of
I keep you busy.
chilling.
That's 10 days of physio.
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of it. That's why it's so important. This is what I want to really get more into, because this is the rest of physio and the rest of these injuries. Because again, you hear, oh, someone's been out for injury X amount of time, and that's the end of the conversation. You don't appreciate what does that time actually mean. And again, someone like yourself who's very positive, but also matter of fact with stuff. Someone who's not going to sort of bullshit, but also not going to, like, you know, milk it either. It's an interesting kind of perspective on this whole thing. Now, what from this time you've spent recovering and rehabbing, what do you feel is going to be different in your training going forward when you get back in action full time? Is it going to spend more time prehab rehab stuff? Is it going to be more time for changing sparring partners up? What do you feel you can do to, I don't know.
As we spoke about before, I moved to Renegade the start of this year, and the beauty of it is I've been there nearly a year, but training wise with them, I've probably only hit kind of 4 or 5 months. So I did the start of the year, we went into lockdown, I got back into it, I got injured. So, you know, I've got so much more to learn from them and with them, and to grow with them. So I don't feel like I need to change spot. I need to just get back with the team and get to work, you know. And the last year to 2 years, but especially the last year since going to Renegade, a lot of things like my mobility, kind of being aware more of injury. So like injury prevention work, stuff like that. And we all as a team take that more seriously, but me as an individual, I'm taking that much more seriously now. So that prep was already there. This, I can't kind of emphasize enough, this was a freak accident and could have happened to anyone. If I was southpaw at the time, if I'd have been orthodox, maybe it wouldn't have happened. Or if I'd have just sacked that last round off because it was an extra round, it probably wouldn't, and I would have fought, and I would have been training for my fourth fight in Bellator now. So I don't feel like any of my training needs to change. I think I'm going to put myself in a much better position, kind of, say if I return March back to Renegade, I'm going to be a better athlete. So I believe that I'll be able to perform even better in the training. So, but like my cardiovascular fitness and stuff has never been an issue. I'm always on point with that. So for me, it's just about getting back to the team and getting back to work. And, we had some new coaches on board. Joby Clayton was getting very involved with Renegade. I was enjoying his striking training, brilliant coach, and working really hard with a Greco-Roman wrestling coach, a Polish champion who is brilliant. So I was really enjoying that. It was just it's just grinding, man. Just get back to the grind and get in there and show Bellator and the world all the improvements.
Yes, I look forward to it, my friend. I'll let you crack on with your physio today. Thank you so much for your time. Social media, where can people find you?
Tim Wilde MMA on all social medias. If you put that in, you're gonna find me. Thanks for the podcast, man. I've enjoyed it.
No worries at all, man. Thank you again for your time.